I will continue. Again, thank you for coming to our third event of Oakland County Solarize here in Rochester. Thank you so much to the Rochester Mills Beer Co. for hosting us. They have been wonderful and will continue to provide throughout the night. We do have quite a stacked agenda today, and I just want to mention that these slides will be sent out following the meeting, and this event is recorded. So if you miss anything, do not fret. No need to take super thorough notes. For folks who have joined us already for the business nonprofit place of worship section, I do apologize. It's a lot of the same content, but we do have an exciting solar story coming up and some more information specific to homeowners. So I'm Lexi Crilly. I'm the Solarize coordinator for the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association. I am here to help you all pursue solar, so feel free to reach out at any point if you have questions or thoughts. The Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association is a 501c3 nonprofit here in Michigan. We've been working to expand access to renewable energy for over 30 years through programs such as Solarize and also other educational, legislative advocacy, and organizational work. Why Solarize? Assuming you guys know a little bit about the program, hence why you're already in this room. But Solarize is an educational and group-wide program aimed to make solar more accessible to communities around Michigan. This presentation will go through the technical, financial, environmental, and general feasibility of solar, and we'll make sure we answer any question you guys might have or answer any qualms that you might have about pursuing solar. And then, of course, we invite you to participate in our 15%, up to 15% group buy discount. How that works, essentially, the more contracts signed, the greater the discount everyone gets. Solarize has been pretty successful so far. We've had over 50 events throughout the state, which have led to over 185 sales of solar systems. At the very low end of our estimates, this has added over 1 megawatt of energy capacity of paid participants, such as yourselves, over $350,000. We've expanded throughout the state, and like I said, this is the third event in an 8-part series for Oakland County. And why does GLREA care? Of course, we're not benefiting financially from holding these events, but we do really care about Solarize because of these two graphs. So on one hand, we have the increased global average surface temperature as well as climate change. We really believe that we want to decarbonize as quickly and as equitably as possible to protect human health and the environment. And then this other graph is an increase in utility rates, which we'll be talking about a little bit more later. But essentially, solar is a really great way to avoid rising utility costs, save money on your bills, and save money while also saving emissions. So that being said, thank you all for being here and contributing to the just energy transition. If you have further questions about solar, we do invite you to check out the GLREA website. And if you're interested in learning more about renewable energy, contributing to this just transition, we'd love for you to become a member and join us at glrea.org. So thanks again, I'll pass it to Nicole.
All right, thank you, Lexi, and thank you everyone for coming out. It looks like we have almost everyone seated, which is a miracle. We do have one more seat up here, two more seats up here, and one behind this gentleman here who was raising his hand. And some back there. Okay, you guys are helping each other out. One thing I will mention, this microphone is having a little bit of interference with the sheer volume of people in here, so apologies for a bit of the tech issues. But my name is Nicole Card. I'm with Oakland County. I'm a sustainability specialist in the Office of Sustainability, and we're partnered with GLREA on offering this program. Before we get started, I just wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about why Oakland County has chosen to partner with GLREA and why we're dedicating some resources to getting this event out to you, the Oakland County community, because we do believe that solar is an asset that will help the community. So the first reason that we're interested in this program is what Lexi had mentioned, to address energy burden and address energy affordability, keep energy affordable for Oakland County businesses, places of worship, and residents. So as Lexi mentioned, the energy prices have been rising, and that's at a pace that outpaces inflation, and it's been trending that way for decades, even before some of the more recent energy shocks that we've been seeing with oil prices, and with the rise in AI, seeing data centers come online. We don't know how that will affect energy prices, but we know that even before these things coming online, we have had consistently rising energy prices, and in a monopoly utility state, there's not a ton else that we can do about it aside from producing our own energy. The second reason that we wanted to support this program is to improve community resilience. So we all know that the energy grid is pretty old in this area. It's susceptible to power outages. And if you have solar and a battery, then your power can still be on when the power grid goes down. However, even if you don't get a battery for your house, having solar does improve resilience for the entire community. Because solar panels are producing the most energy during what is the peak demand time for the grid. So during a hot sunny day when everyone has their ACs on, that's when your solar panels will be working the most, and they're going to be lowering that peak demand, which really has benefits for everyone in the community. The third reason that we love this program is that it really is a community-based program. It's really supporting neighbors to meet and to connect with each other, to talk about shared concerns. And we do know that most people who are going solar right now, it's their first time going solar. That's largely because solar panels do have long longevity. So if you got one 30 years ago, you don't necessarily need more today, but that does mean that most of you probably have never gotten solar before, and it's a new and possibly intimidating adventure to be on. So that's why we're hosting these events, to hopefully take away some of those fears, answer your questions, and give you the chance to talk to other people in your neighborhood who have the same questions, goals, and concerns. The final reason that we're supporting this program is that, as Lexi mentioned, it will facilitate upgrades to our energy system that reduce carbon pollution, and we know this carbon pollution is harmful to human health and also to the planet's health. So getting some of your energy use off the grid and onto renewable energies is a great way to make an impact. I wanted to briefly mention that Oakland County is on a very similar solar journey right now. We installed our first solar panels on our own building, one of our sheriff's buildings in 2023. You can see a picture of up there on the top right. And we also have, pretty excited about this, in 4 days, we have a larger solar project that will be, it's been constructed off-site, but at the beginning of June, it will be offsetting 65% of all of Oakland County facilities, so our own operations facilities, not all the buildings in the county, unfortunately. 65% of our electric use for all Oakland County facilities. So we're right there with you on this and looking for more and more ways to invest in solar. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the food. I know I touched on it a little bit, that we have some more coming out.
It's already here.
It's already here. Thank you, John. All right. So if you didn't get food, please try and grab it quietly, because I know the microphone's not working super well, but you're here to eat, so help yourself. If you do want more to eat or more to drink, you're welcome to chat with Dylan or to go out to the bar. And if there is anything you don't eat for whatever reason, and you don't want to grab a takeaway to take it with you, we do have a compost bin also next to John to the right of the food. You can put anything there so that we don't send any food waste to the landfill at this time. So with that, thank you so much for coming. We're going to get into the program, and I'm going to pass it to Woody, who will have to make his way through the sea of chairs, but is going to give us our solar story for the night. Okay. Look, the sun is really bright.
Okay. Hello. Hi, everybody. I just want to first say thank you to this. Amazed by the amount of people that are in this room. It's amazing. So thank you to all of you. Thank you the county's Office of Sustainability. Thank you to GLREA and Absolute Solar. These events are really important because we do need to make a transition to renewable energy, and helping educate folks and help you understand and demystify how to do it. I think it's very, very important. So a lot of thanks to everybody here. My name is Woody Gantina. Is my the title of the presentation here is A Tale of Two Homes. I have the unique opportunity to talk about two systems that I installed through the Solarize program in Royal Oak. A little bit of background about myself, though, real quick, because I think it's important to understand what my drivers were to actually want to put solar on my home, because all of your drivers may be a little bit different. So my background is in sustainable design and construction. I was born and raised in this area. Went to Michigan State, had a construction management degree, go green. Thank God. So it wasn't over. Sorry, or Wolverine. Right out of school, I spent 8 years in the Bay Area, California. Actually, this year will mark 30 years that I first moved out there. I moved back to Michigan in 2004. But the reason I point that out is being out there really helped me understand sustainable design and construction much better. Because a lot of the work that I had to do while I was out there was really pushing the envelope of what sustainability means. And so I was able to cut my teeth on that quite a bit before coming back to Michigan. I've been a Royal Oak resident for about 19 years now. I'm one of the newest city commissioners in Royal Oak. I also sit on the planning commission, but I'm also the most recent past chair of the environmental advisory board. The reason that that's important is in that role, I was actually part of the team that created the city's first sustainability and climate action plan. And through that plan, one of the goals that we recognized was we needed to somehow be able to increase the use of renewables within the city of Royal Oak. And at the time, the Solarize program was just in Ann Arbor at the time. And one of the goals that we created in the plan was to create our own Solarize program. So thankfully, I met with John Freeman, we talked about it, and I was able to start a Solarize Royal Oak program. Because I recognized the need for it in Royal Oak. It was something that was very important to our city, it was very important to me, and it was one of the goals of that climate action plan that we put together. So the first home that you see up the top here, Edgewood, that's the home I lived in for pretty much my entire time in Royal Oak. Lived there almost 19 years. The reason I point this out is, for one, it's a pretty typical home for Royal Oak, about a 1,700 square foot home, 3-bedroom, 3-bath. It was originally built in 1945, and the reason I point that out is you can imagine its energy performance related to a home of that age. We installed a 5.4 kilowatt system with 1 Tesla Powerwall, which comprised of 16 panels in total. With a growing family, we just sort of ran out of space, and I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to build a new home for my family, still in Royal Oak. And that's the home we moved to on Greenleaf. Albeit a much larger home, but with my background in sustainable design and construction, I designed it in such a way to sort of mitigate its performance, or I guess make it a high performance home. So it's a much bigger home. It's 4 bedrooms, 4 bath. The original home was built in 1935. So again, you can imagine its energy performance. But we renovated the home. I did the majority of the work myself, and it took me a fair amount of time. From 2022 to about 2025, we moved in last summer. We kept the original home, built a large addition, upgraded the energy performance of the existing home, and then all of the new construction addition was built to really high performance energy standards. On that home, we actually installed an 18.2 kilowatt system, with 2 Tesla Powerwalls, and that comprised of 40 panels in total. So a little bit more detail about the original system. So in May of 22, we installed a 5.4 kilowatt system with 1 Tesla Powerwall. And one of the reasons that I wanted to install that system, again, we were coming off of creating this sustainability plan. I just started the Solarize program in Royal Oak. It was really important to me to understand the process, understand how a system is sized, what the cost of different systems are, what the DTE process was, what our city process was. I sort of jokingly referred to it as my street MBA in solar. So that's what was really important for me to do it. But I also really wanted to put solar on that home, even though I knew we had just started the new construction project. I knew we were going to be leaving that home soon. It was still very important to me to put solar on that home. The system is produced quite well. It's actually produced 24 million watt hours, which is different than megawatts, and actually exported 5.2 million watt hours to the grid. Based on that, we are expecting a 6-year payback period, which we installed it in 2022. So we're about a couple of years away from actually paying off that whole system. There was several lessons learned, like I mentioned, in terms of why I wanted to go through that process. One of them helped me understand how to properly size the system for the home that I was building. And it also helped me promote the Solarize Royal Oak program, because again, we had just started the program. So I don't know if any of you remember the old hair commercial. I wasn't the leader of the program, I was also a member of it. So the home we moved into, we just moved into it last summer. That first point there, 6,200 feet conditioned space. I acknowledge that's a very large number, but one thing to understand is that the home was designed for the entire home to be conditioned space. And what I mean by that is, obviously the home itself, the basement, our garage, and then my wife and I both have offices that were built above the garage. All of these square footage of the entire home is all heated and cooled. So that number comes out to 6,200 square feet. It was designed as an all-electric home. It has a geothermal heating and cooling system, a heat pump water heater, induction cooktop. We actually don't even have a gas meter on the home. And the reason I point that out is to highlight the fact that its electrical usage is going to be higher because we designed it to be an all-electric home. So on that home, last year, we installed an 18.2 kilowatt system with 2 Tesla Powerwalls. The system went live in late January. We were still able to qualify for the tax credits, in my opinion, because it was operable at the end of last year. But due to DTE's process and having to wait for them to do the turn on, it didn't actually go live until January. So that system, again, it only went live in late January, 5.8 million watt hours produced to date. 2.1 was exported to the grid, and this has a 12-year projected payback. Now, the reason that's a little bit longer is a few different reasons. One, it's just a larger system, more cost. But the home itself has a goal of net zero energy. And I don't necessarily have more than not even 6 months worth of data yet to prove out if we're going to be able to get there. But I can tell you this: our bill last month in April, again with an all-electric home of fairly large size, including my EV, because I do drive an electric truck, and that would be about 1,000 miles worth of charge in that April bill, was $6.50. All related to not only the way that we built the home, but the solar that we put on there and how we're actually utilizing the solar. So there's a lot of detail within that story that I left out. I'm going to be sticking around. I'm happy to answer any questions, share as much of my story with you as I possibly can. But hopefully you found that informative. John?
I just want to make a point. If you take a look at the slide, it says that that little plate on the top for me is leadership in energy and environmental design. That is a standard that was developed in the United States. I taught for LEED for 8 years and did that program. I created the LEED USGBC chapter here in the city of Detroit. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah, we actually, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm pretty proud of it. We actually achieved LEED Gold status, and it's the first LEED home in Royal Oak. So we're pretty proud of it.
Question.
Yep.
Your EV pickup truck, does it have a vehicle to grid capability? In other words, are you able to use your EV as your power backup for a long-term backup battery that would exceed the 2 Powerwall?
So that is a model that is capable. It is a feature that you have to pay for. So my vehicle is an F-150 Lightning. It's a $500 option that in order to turn on that service, that's how much it would cost, but it does have the capability. I haven't found the need to use it yet because of the way our system is set up, but it does have that ability. Any other questions? Oh, one back there now.
Incentives for home being built in 27.
So I think the question was if I was aware of any tax incentives for new homes being built in 27. I'm not aware of new tax incentives for homes being built in 2027. So both of the solar arrays that I just spoke of, I was able to take advantage of the investment tax credits to help lower the cost of both of those systems. Unfortunately, those tax credits have gone away for residential projects for 26. Many of the tax credits that were available for new home construction or energy efficiency, those have since gone away as well. I'm not aware of any that are coming back in 2027. Hopefully something does. And unfortunately, the state of Michigan doesn't necessarily have a lot of incentives either, but more people like yourselves being in rooms like this will hopefully change the tide.
Are you building your home from scratch?
Yeah. What was your bill from DTE in January? I think that.
So that is, it's a great question. That's why I'm waiting for 1 year's worth of data to see if I met my goal of net zero energy. Because it's an all electric home and because we have a geothermal system, which the utility that it uses is electricity. Our heating bills in the coldest months, so the January bill was about $500 for the electric bill. So again, that's our entire bill for the home to operate the home, but also to heat it. Our winter months are going to be our highest energy usage months. As we are now with relatively temperate weather, so in the spring and in the fall, we're typically not operating your furnace or your air conditioning very much. That April bill that I mentioned, we're not even at peak production time yet. I think Adam will probably cover some of the curves a little bit later in terms of your energy usage throughout the year and solar production throughout the year. The winter months are probably the worst months in the sense that the production is the least and energy usage is the highest. But that's typically offset, or my goal, my hope, is that will be offset in the summer months where our usage is lower, but our production is significantly higher. And so we're just getting into those months right now. I'm a nerd and watching every single day on my app to see, what's our production, how much energy is the house using, call the family up, make sure lights are turned off, they don't need to do that something.
I just want to respond to your quick comment on there. If you could use you could roll the cost of installing solar in with your mortgage, like a construction loan with your mortgage, then that will be the cheapest way to install solar. Because mortgage financing will be less than if you, for instance, go some other route to financing solar. Number two, the Department of Energy, or the old Department of Energy, they've done studies that people that put solar in their homes, their property value increases fairly significantly as compared to your neighbor who doesn't have it. So if down the road, you put the solar in now, then down the road you sell the home, that's going to enhance your resale value. Then the third reason solar is that you are going to be able to take control of your energy usage. DTE is raising the rates every year by 4.6%, almost minimally. So by baking in your solar system now, you're going to be saving more and more money as years go on compared to your neighbor who don't have a solar system. So even though you don't get the tax break now, and that could change under a new federal administration, believe me. But the bottom line is that taking the law as it is now, there are still some pretty significant reasons to install solar now, particularly if you're building a home from scratch. But it applies to everybody as well.
Thank you, John. The one last point I wanted to make is, I talked about our new home and some of the systems that went in building up that home. A lot of those systems do have a bit of a first cost premium. But what I wanted to point out is by building the home that way and making it all electric, having the renewables on the roof, one of the things that it does is it brings down the payback period for all of those systems. The geothermal system did have a first cost premium to it. I was able to take advantage of the tax credit for that. But building the house the way that we did, even though it's an all electric house, having the solar on the roof actually reduces the payback period for all of the systems that we put into the house, including the solar, to allow us to get to net zero energy at the end of the day. So it does take thinking about what you're doing pretty critically and understanding your goals and making sure you're doing all the right things to try to reach them. So, like I said, I'm sticking around, so afterwards, if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
All right. This mic does not like me. I'm Adam, I work with Absolute Solar. We are the contractors as part of this Solarize Group buy for residential homeowners, and we are happy to be here tonight and talk to you a little bit more about it. As Woody explained with his solar system, it's a fantastic thing to do. You can see my house, I put solar on it as well a couple years ago. I didn't have the advantage of taking on batteries as well, but you don't need to do that. It's something you can do if you want to. We can talk all about that for your personal house and how this can work for your goals. But yeah, this is something that I wanted to explain. It's just a little bit about our company. I'll go into it pretty briefly. And of course, we have a QR code that goes over all this, and all these slides will be available to you at the end if you want to take it later. So the owners of our company actually met at MSU as well. Agree. I know we're in the wrong house for MSU stuff, but yeah, we met at MSU Law School. We were studying environmental law. We were looking at kind of the policy and the precedent, the things that are going on within the monopoly of the system, essentially is what it is with DTE and consumers. They kind of write the rules for their own policies, and they take advantage of every person in this room. Unfortunately, all of us are paying for them to have another yacht. So it's something that our company looked at 10 years ago and said, instead of creating some new policies, how can we actually help create renewable energy for anybody that wants it and create that into a bigger change long term? So that's kind of where we put this from a top-down approach to bottom up. Just created this company about 10 years ago, almost in a day now. we're locally owned and operated right here in Michigan. Lansing is where we're born and bred. So we're happy to be a local contractor in the area. And it's important for anybody looking at solar to have a contractor to be locally owned and operated. Our perspective likes that obviously because we are, but it's important for you to know too, because when you go through permitting, building inspections, electrical inspections, knowing who those people are, it's important. Going through all the townships and cities that have to go through these local jurisdictions, it's a lot of stuff that we have to know for you, and people that are not really familiar with the area or the people, it's a very different thing that happens. You know, so we're licensed, insured, we have masters, electricians on staff. Again, these are just important things to note, because anybody who is putting solar on your site has to be this, or they should tell you if they are. And obviously, because we're connecting to your electric system, having that electrical certification and license is very important and required. So what we do is we provide a turnkey installation from start to finish. You know, what you guys are looking at is putting solar on your site, and what we can do is do every single step for you. We handle all the permits, all of the interconnection applications through DTE. We do the installation, and we make sure all of those final inspections pass so you can turn your system on and start generating renewable electricity. Big part of what we do is our philosophy really is just making sure that every system that we're servicing and installing is something that we can service, and we want to make sure that we do. And we want to make sure that you know that we can service that system in the off chance it's ever needed. A lot of outfits out there don't really have any type of service that they provide. Where they say they do and they're not really sticking around. We monitor all of our clients' installations. Once the system is installed, the nice thing is, like Woody and myself, I can look at my phone every day and see how it's functioning. And we do that for every client. We have a service department that's dedicated to all of our clients. And the great thing about these inverters and the way that these solar systems work is it automatically detects if there's something not functioning like it should. It tells us, the contractor, what's going wrong, and then we can service that equipment. So it's really important to know that that's gives you guys peace of mind on those things that we do for you. And that's all free of charge in perpetuity. So our plan for your future is essentially designing the system based on your home's needs. We want to make sure that we're looking at how much energy are you using, where is your building located, what are the roof structures, trees, shadows. We're looking at soiling. We look at current weather data sets for the area to see, like, it's Michigan, it's not always bright and sunny. You know, we factor those things in when we're looking at our designs. And so these are big parts of what we do as a company is we do a custom analysis of all of these steps to figure out exactly what your solar system would look like and how much energy it would generate for you in a given day, in a month, a given year, and then over the course of a lifetime. And so we're going to look at the system based off of your energy needs and what would be possible based on the roof structure, or if you have land enough for a ground mount array. And then we can customize that based on those parameters and also kind of what your energy needs are. And based on the limitations that the utility company has as well, we'll factor those things in to make sure that it's going to be able to pass inspections and all that. One of the other things that we look at is the return on the investment and kind of what this means for you in the long run. As we can talk about all day until the cows come home, the energy costs aren't going down for you. And so what we can do is help you create a second source of power for your own home so you can generate electricity from a free source, which is the sun. You know, so that's something that once you put in the system on site, it immediately has a return. And so what we do when we factor in any design for your system is we're going to look at a 25-year spreadsheet of how the money breaks down over time and how that compounds based on how much energy how much it would have cost you for that energy if you didn't have solar. So that's where you really can look at the ROI and say, what kind of return am I realistically expecting? And we'll be able to provide that for you. So with the future of solar, just generally speaking, you know, we've already talked about this, but it really is the most effective way to help yourself not have to spend extra money on the utility company charging you more and more and more for your electricity. It increases the value of your property as well. As John Friedman had mentioned, it's an important thing. You know, if you ever sell your home, not everyone is living in their house for the end of time. So if you ever sell it, studies have shown that it does increase your home's value because it's essentially an appliance in your home, and it appreciates in value because it becomes more valuable over time as utility rates go up. And it's something that lasts much longer than most appliances in homes. So that's another thing too. And another important indicator on property value is that technically and legally, your property taxes cannot go up with the installation of solar. So that's an important thing to note. So once you are able to put solar on your building, obviously you're gonna be able to reduce your monthly expenses in a big way. In the summer, spring, fall, those are your biggest breadwinners, because that's when the sun is out longest and when you're gonna see the most sun in the sky, and you're gonna be able to reduce your electric costs. Like you were mentioning, in the winter, you don't get as much of a savings, but we do factor that into the entire breakdown of everything. And typically you look at if you were to offset as much as you could, you're probably gonna save about 80 to 85% of your overall electric costs in the long run. So that's one thing to look at. So, our systems are designed literally to last for decades. The systems all come with warranties on them. The panels themselves are 25, 30-year warranties. And what they warranty after the 25th and 30th year, depending on the panel, is an 80 to 85 to 90% efficiency in the 25th or 30th year. So that means it's still 85% efficient in 25 years. So these panels can last, 50, 60 years in some cases, which is fantastic. So these things are meant to last a really long time, and it's again something we monitor for you for free. So another thing that we do is that we offer this service complimentary, and we do have a 3-year free service warranty. So if there is anything that does need to be serviced in the first 3 years, we will actually come out free of charge and do that. Anything after that's a small labor expense. And just a second on the questions, save it, and we can do them all at the end. We're happy to dive in, but we will be able to service that equipment in the off chance that it's necessary. And we do have that as well as a 3-year production guarantee as well. So what we do when we design this system is we're looking at how much energy are you going to be able to generate in a given year, and our goal is to make sure that that happens. Of course, that's why we have that 3-year production guarantee as part of our quotes now. So we already all know this, the utility rates aren't going down. DTE consumers, they keep raising rates the moment they can. And so every year to year, they're going to do that. And they are not going down, which means if you have another way to mitigate that cost, I would definitely look into it, because long term, that is going to be a big time saver for your wallet. And so we're not even factoring in a lot of these data centers and AI stuff, and electrification of everything that's coming on site for the grid at large. So those rates, these are the reasons why these are starting to increase much higher in the last couple of years. And we think that it's going to be increasing even further as these data centers come online, because some data centers using as much electricity as cities. So imagine 2 cities worth of electricity in one, add that up. Anyways, so the solution, as we all know, solar is the solution really. Once you have solar, and you can do batteries as well, it's a basic way to reduce your electric costs. Like I was saying, around 80% is what we can see. If you're looking at offsetting as much energy as you can, overall, that's about an 80% savings on your electric bill. Again, because the winter months, you're not going to be able to generate as much electricity. And sometimes if you have geothermal or electric forms of heat, you're going to be using more electricity in winter. But those are things that we factor in your analysis. So this is going to insulate you from future rate hikes. This is another important metric and why this compounds so much over time, because as that rate goes up by 4, 5, 8, 10% a year, then that compounds, right? You're going to be spending literally $5, $10, $20, $30 a month more per bill. And then you think about how much more that is, over time as your electric use is going up. It's only going to just cost you more to not do this. So that's one thing that's important to think about, that it compounds over time. Becoming energy independent not only reduces your bill, it's reducing your carbon footprint. That's the secondary thing for a lot of folks, but environmentally, that is a huge thing that is going to be able to reduce the overall demand of the gas and, just the footprint that you have for your own building, for your next generation. If you have kids, grandkids, thinking about their futures, and it is the whole reason why this is happening for myself personally. But that's why we do this for everybody's home. So it's going to, like I said, increase home value. This is really good for homeowners. It's going to extend the lifespan of your roof beneath your rate. You did that as well, because it's insulating you from the weatherization and all the curling and shingling that happens. So those things can happen. And it can also reduce your AC costs, again, by being that insulator. Again, these are small factors, but it's all really good reasons to look at this. Again, looking at the graph, this only goes to 2024 and how much you're being charged per kilowatt hour. And you can see this graph is never going down. I don't think it ever has. And it probably is going to be in the 25, 28 cents, per kilowatt hour that you're being charged. When you look at your bills, these are things that we do for you again, so you don't have to go into the weeds on it, but it is something that you see how much energy you are being charged. And these things are constantly on the rise. And so this is something that helps with that. How it works with the utility company when we go to put solar on your site is you have a limit to how much solar you're able to generate based on your most recent 12 months of electric use. And so you can go up to 110% of that value with solar, and you don't have to go that high. It's not always our first recommendation, but it's technically where DTE draws the line in the sand. And believe it or not, they limit how much solar you can put on your own building. Of course they do. And so what we do is we figure that out for you. Once we have your bill, we can look at your energy data and see how much energy you're using. We factor that in. What they have, once you have solar on your site, is it's called distributed generation. Basically, it's a different rate structure for how your energy is being generated. And when you send extra energy out to the grid for extra energy that your solar system is producing, basically you are given a credit for that excess generation. But that excess generation rate is not so great. So that's where trying to find that happy medium with the return on investment is sometimes really important to do. And we'll factor that in for you when we look at your goals to see what the best strategy is for your guys' financials. But again, we'll figure that out with you. As far as financing it, if you have cash to pay for it, cash is king. That's a fantastic approach. Of course, that's going to be the best way to get the quickest return on investment because you don't have to pay any sort of financing fees or anything like that. If you have a way to do a HELOC or a home improvement loan, those are fantastic options as well. Financing is available through Michigan Saves. They're a nonprofit organization that works with homeowners like you and me on putting in solar and renewable energy, but solar, batteries, EV charging. They have home improvement loans that are unsecured, and because they're the nation's first nonprofit green bank, they work with a lot of the credit unions in the state that offer competitive rates for these types of projects. They work with all types of contractors, but it's a pretty intensive vetting program they have, and we're happy to be, a vetted contractor with them. And you can do it for any type of project. But yeah, so we work with them, and again, this is a hyperlink that'll be available to you as well, so you can check them out. When I put solar on my house, I did the exact same thing. I went through Michigan Saves to put a loan together for my solar system. I'm still paying off student loans, so I didn't have the luxury of paying it all out. But that's something you can do, and it's something that helps you so you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket. You can pay a low monthly fee to have that solar system and own that system and have it be, a 10 or 15-year plan and have that be paid off. And so the fact that they're unsecured is a good thing because that means there's no prepayment penalties on these as well. And so you can pay them off early, which I think is a fantastic approach to, saving even more money on the interest. So as far as the way that it works and how grid connected systems work, I know we talk about his system, so I'll kind of breeze over this, but generally speaking, once you have a solar, gotta get closer at it, a solar panel on your roof or on the ground, what we need to do is connect it to an inverter, and that is the thing that's converting the energy from your solar panel to the inverter, and that turns it into power for your home. And then any excess generation of that solar power from the inverter is connected to the grid as well. And so any excess energy that is being generated during the middle of the day is going to be sent up to the grid. And if you have a battery, it'll actually go into the battery before it goes out to the grid. And that's another way to do an energy arbitrage, if you will. So you can actually store some of that energy and save it for the evening use. It helps you utilize less of the grid overall. So batteries are becoming more and more financially available for folks, and it makes a lot of financial sense. So this is kind of how they work. And of course, all of our systems are grid tied, like anybody's house that has a grid to it. We're going to tie it in with that. We have to go through those permitting stages with the utility company to make sure we can pass all the inspections. Again, we do all that for you. These are just a couple examples of systems that we've installed on residential buildings over the course of time. Ground mounts, rooftop arrays, and anything of the like. So we're going to factor that in when we do a design and we look through where you're at. Every township, every city, every organization has a little bit different jurisdiction as to where panels can go. I know initially we had a question about HOAs and things like that as well. So we're going to factor in what is the fire code rating and where can panels go. There's certain limitations. We're going to look at all that stuff and make sure that the system is going to be able to be installed in those locations. So we'll factor all that in on your own personal property. And this is an average residential home. We actually looked in this county and said, all right, what is the system size and what is an average electric use? And this was one that we installed a couple of years back. It's a 7 kilowatt system, 440 watt panels. This is producing a little over 9,000 kilowatt hours a year. And so this client specifically had an electrical offset of about 74%. You can see here in this graph, basically in the red is showing your consumption month by month. And this is why the bill is so important. When we're looking at your bills, we're factoring in how much energy are you using month by month. This is typical. Most houses, you're using a little bit more electricity in the summer with AC use. It might be the opposite for Woody because he's using more probably in the winter with, electric heat. But what we're looking at is when we have that bill, we factor in a software design analysis that factors in how big of a solar system are we doing? And then we look at a production analysis and tells us how much energy are we putting together for that site. This one was offsetting a little over 70% of that. And so we're able to offset a handful of that throughout the course of the year. And annually, we're saving them about $1,200 on their electric costs because, again, we're offsetting most of that with solar energy. So that payback was roughly 9 to 11 years, depending on the overall rate of return that has happening with utility companies. So what we have seen is that's an average is about 10 years now for the payback, and that's pretty typical. And so over 25 years, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars that this client specifically is saving on their electric costs. So if you look at how much money you're spending every month on your bill, you times that by 12, you times that by 25 years, and then you factor in what the inflated rate is going to be, this number adds up. It's a pretty simple way to do the math. Unfortunately, we can't do the exact number because we don't know how much the energy company is going to charge you, but what we do know is that the rate isn't going down. So it's going to exponentially be more over time. So this is something that we look at and say, if this person spent $30,000, $40,000 on this solar system, they're actually saving $113,000 over that course of that lifetime. They break even in 10 years, they've saved money that entire time, and they've actually put that extra money in their pocket, and they can, put a down payment on another house, and start a whole business plan, whatever they want to do. And so this is something that we do for every house, is to kind of look at what that looks like over the course of long term, to figure out exactly what that would be. And when we do that design for it, we're going to look at a graph like this, we're going to figure out exactly what that would look like for your home. Okay, so the way the Solarize group buy discount works is essentially everybody that's in the room, all your friends and neighbors in the Oakland County area, we want to get them together and see how many people can be involved in this. It's kind of like a Tupperware party. How many people can we get? But it's a minimum 5% is what everybody is going to get off on the solar cost. And that's just for being a part of the group, just for getting a quote. We offer those for you for free. It's going to be a 5% discount on the market rate of what we would charge you traditionally. And then as more people sign up, it's going to increase that discount 1% for every person up to 15 total. So like everyone's going to get 5 as a minimum. And then the moment we reach more than 5 signatures for the total, then that additional percent grows. So it goes up to 15% of a discount, which is, again, a really great thing because now that the residential tax credits are gone, this is the best way to save on the upfront cost of your solar system. And that's why we love doing these group buy purchases, because these things are becoming more and more financially available, especially now that the tax credits are no longer applicable. A lot of the manufacturers have reduced the cost on these systems. A lot of them have a lot of an overabundance of supply. So what we are excited about is that the cost has actually gone down in a pretty good way to create a pretty similar return on investment, even when you were able to claim the tax credit previous years. So it's a very similar return now that the cost has come down and you can save up to 15% on upfront costs, which is, again, just a great time to be looking at this. So the way it works for the timelines and the deadlines and things, of course, we have step 1, the meeting is happening right now. What we say is just give us 2 weeks, give me a holler. I got business cards up front. You can talk to Lexi. Again, we'll get your contact info. And if you want to get a quote, just let us know within 2 weeks so we can actually start putting this information together for you. Send us your utility bill and we can actually start building this model. Step 3 is basically 2 weeks to receive that quote. Once we get all of the information for everybody's utility statements, and if we have a chance to come out to your site, we have certain electric systems you want us to look at. Again, everybody's house is a little different. They have different needs. We try to customize the solar system based off of that. Another 2 weeks for us to build that quote and get it in your inbox there. So then after that, we're going to give you guys another 2 weeks to review the solar quote, talk to anybody else you'd like to speak to about this, any financing options as well. We're happy to review it with you and answer any questions. And then what we have is our deadline for you to receive this Solarize discount is July 10th. And if we have, we have a large group of people in here. So if we end up needing more time, of course, I'll email everybody and say, hey, we've extended the deadline because we have too many quotes we're putting out. And that's, if that does happen, that's a good problem for all of you. Because that means a lot of people are interested, and that's what we like. And so what we want is to try to help you out and save that money, but the deadline for that right now is July 10th for you to be able to receive that discount. And what we do at the very end is once we get to that deadline, if you've signed up between now and that deadline, after that point, all of those people that are involved in this program, I'm gonna send out another updated email with a, hey, congrats, instead of 5% off, you get 9% off, or you get 15% off. Hopefully that's what we see here tonight. So that's what we like to do, is offer you guys that benefit. And this is why these Solarize group buys are just a fantastic opportunity to look at this. And again, next step, really, all we need is your utility bill. You know, once we have your contact info and you want to move forward with at least getting a quote together, again, we provide this information to you for free. All we need is your most recent utility statement. Most of the graphs are going to be available, so as long as we can see the historical data for the most recent 12 months, that's all we really need. And then we can actually start designing the system based off of your needs. And if you have certain requests for how large of a system you wanted to offset, whether or not it's the maximum of 110, if you're interested in that, we can do it. Or finding that happy medium with the return on investment being as quick as possible, we can look at that too. Usually what we recommend in that approach is somewhere between 60 and maybe 75% of your electricity being offset via solar. And that's where you're going to be limiting the amount of excess generation going out to that grid, which helps you maintain the full value of the energy being generated. Again, I'm talking very fast and there's a lot of information, so I want to make sure I have enough time to answer any questions you guys have too. So this is our QR code for our website if you want to check us out. Of course, the QR code that was available in the front is kind of more of our sign up link, so that'll be available to you as well, so we can touch base. But any questions at all? Happy to. So I know you had one a long time ago, and I apologize, but we'll start with you. You still got it.
Yeah. Another question here. On the panels on the roof, they need to be cleaned at intervals.
So the question was, do the panels need to be cleaned? And it's very ironic that you said that, because I was actually on my roof today cleaning my solar panels. I don't advise that, by the way, to go on your own roof and risk everything. But I have a one story, as you saw, and it's pretty easy for me to just get a squeegee up there. I was looking at my system, I'm like, it's a perfect day, there's 0 clouds. And I just saw a little bit of a dusting up there. So I was like, I'm just gonna go up there. I don't recommend it. Most of the time, Michigan weather does its job for you. Nice wind and rain, you don't even have to worry about it, especially in the winter. Don't go up and clean off the snow if it's frozen. It's a nightmare for you. Don't recommend it. Again, the systems that we design are built in with those kind of factors in play. All the soiling that comes to fruition, the standard panel degradation that happens over time, snow loads, if there's snow covered on the panels, those are factored into our analysis to kind of look at what the estimated amount of production you should get. It's not always advisable to go up there. Again, do what you want in your own house, but that's something that we typically don't recommend. But you can get like a big squeegee, you know, it doesn't do that. Yeah.
So later, Doc, what cloud about, you're supposed to be able to get, like cloudy. What is, how much goes it out?
So I think the question was, how much does the energy efficiency drop on a cloudy day? Is that kind of what you were asking? In the winter, yeah, sure. I mean, again, that stuff is factored into our design. So what we're looking at is, you know, overcast days is maybe going to be half of the production that you could get on a sunny day, maybe less than that if it's like a really dense cloud. You know, so in the winter, the sun is lower in the sky and it's not available as long. So those are just things that with your production analysis, it's going to factor that in. We have a really state-of-the-art software that goes in, it does like a whole sundial for a whole year, and it shows exactly the azimuth of everything. So it tells us exactly how much sun we reasonably should get in that location after factoring in all the environmental things that are going to be part of that. So it's not an exact number, you know, that you can, it fluctuates moment by moment with the weather. Sometimes you get all 4 seasons in a day around here. So you never really know what you're going to get, but we try to factor in as much of a conservative estimate in that in our designs. So you can get as much out of it as you can.
But cold has nothing to do with solar. You can have a sunny day in the dead of winter, you're gonna generate electricity. It's just a fraction of whether the sun is shining or not.
Correct.
So if you live in the UP, it's freezing up there, you get a sunny day and you're cranking electricity.
Yeah, it's very true. Thank you, John.
And you're creating heat. I had solar furnaces on my roof that work beautifully, and when it's a sunny day, they heat the whole up part of our house, and it works fine. We managed for all solar furnaces.
Yeah, there was a nominal amount of heat that comes from the solar panels. It will shed the snow a little bit quicker than what your roof would do, so that is a nice point to make. is that it does shed a little bit faster than just having snow, yeah.
And you're correctly that power outage. Still have power for.
Yeah, so with power outages, you will need to have solar plus a battery or a generator type system. You have to have another way to create an island from the grid. For me, on my house, I have solar with no extra power outage protection. I'm fortunate enough, I live over in Lansing, so I have a different utility company over there, and I don't have a lot of outages. Where's the wood I gotta knock out? But the reality is that if you are experiencing more power outages, and I know DTs have been a lot of problems with that lately, you do need to have a battery backup system so your solar system can remain functioning. Because by electrical code, you can't have electricity backfeeding electrical lines if they're down. And because it's grid tied, the battery helps you isolate yourself from the grid when the grid is down. The inverter actually connects to a transfer switch and automatically detects this. And it'll make this, so the solar system powers the battery, and that battery helps power certain appliances and loads in your home. Typically, what we do with batteries is we size it based on your loads and your needs. Sometimes you can do whole home backup, sometimes it's just cost prohibitive. But we look at that and kind of factor that in and see if like we want to do a sub panel isolation or a whole home backup. If you already have a generator on site, we look at different types of inverters that can be compatible with all that as well. Yeah.
On your average load, what's your upfront cost?
Uh,
With battery backup.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, you're probably looking at like 30 to 50,000 on an average. Again, it fluctuates dramatically depending on, if you have a system like mine, I had 12 panels, it was a 5 kilowatt system. It was just me and my wife and a little dog at the time. I got a 5-month-old as of today, actually, at home now. So that's an exciting moment for me. But our usage has gone up. My wife got an EV last year, so our demand is higher. But at the time, we had a 5 kilowatt system. It was around 15, 20 grand for that type of system size. But that did not include a battery. Batteries can sometimes double that cost very quickly, because there's a lot of information, a lot of electrical infrastructure, a lot of things that are required for the battery. But the battery prices are coming down. So that's something that we can help figure out for us. It depends on how big of a battery bank you have and when that happens and how charged it was via the solar that day. It's a variable. It really depends. Most batteries are in like the 10 kilowatt hour range, and you can double or triple that, quadruple that. You can really go buck wild if money is no object. But 10 kilowatt hours is basically a 1,000-watt light bulb running for 10 hours. So you can think about it like that. 1,000 watts for 10 hours is 10 kilowatt hours. And so, if you have 1,000 watts of power being needed, whether it's, a sump pump or a garage door, your Wi-Fi, just the standard things you would want on in an outage. Usually you can get through a night on just having 1 or 2 batteries. But it just depends on what is assigned to that battery in the event of an outage. But we can help you figure that out.
I've got a question in the back
Oh,
for a minute.
yeah.
I want to go to her
Sure,
first.
yeah,
Sorry.
please. All good.
What about appliances? Currently, we have a gas furnace and a gas water heater. We'd like to upgrade to a heat pump, but,
Great.
what would be, are there any retrofit costs if we do that, or can we run gas on some systems, solar on others?
Yeah, so the question is she has gas appliances and she's looking at converting things to electric. And the great thing is with us, like, we don't have to do the rocket science of figuring out exactly what you have now and what you're going to have in the future. Because DTE kind of has a hard line in the sand, they look at historical data. They're looking at the most recent 12 months for factoring in that electric use. If your electric use increases over time and you change out from gas to electric, you can always expand your solar system, add batteries down the road. Those are things we do for a lot of our clients, actually. It's about 31% of our clients last year were repeat clients because they bought an EV. Now they're using a lot more electricity or things like that. And we install those types of things as well. But as far as when you go to make those switches, you really don't have to worry so much about when the solar happens, because the solar is just another form of energy for the building. And then if you were to use more electricity over time, it's still going to offset parts of that electric load on the total. And then over time, you may just want to increase your solar offset if you wanted to offset more of your energy with a larger consumption. Yeah, do you have one as well?
Yeah,
discounts apply to battery storage as well?
Oh, thank you for that question. So his question was, do the discounts apply to the batteries as well? And the answer is unfortunately no. Batteries are really tough as far as marginally for us as a company. They're, again, cost prohibitive in some cases. There's certain ones that can be advantageous, but it's the solar system that creates the discount. And any upgrades like EV charging, any panel upgrades, batteries, those are kind of upgradable options, not things you need with your solar system, and those are technically not available for the discount. But all the solar stuff encompassing the solar system will be. Yeah, thank you for that. It's a good point. Yeah.
Does the angle of the roof, whether it faces north, south, east, west, make a difference? Is question one.
Yep.
And then I'll have a second.
Yeah, so the orientation of your roof is paramount. And what we do with our software is we're actually going to be looking at, we have satellite imagery and we have LiDAR detection software that tells us where the trees are, where your house is, the orientation, the pitch. And we're going to be able to figure out, like, if we put a panel on this roof or that roof, what the production value would be. And so what we look at is trying to find the most optimal areas. South is always best. If you can do east and west, you're probably going to look at maybe a 10 to 15% reduction in overall that you can get out of it. North is not usually advised unless it's all you can do. But yeah, we will be able to help you out. Every house, again, is different. So we look at all those factors to make sure we can find the most productive system for us.
The second is.
Well, wait. And if your roof doesn't work, but you have a big yard, then you can do a ground mount system that faces that.
Oh, yeah. If you have the space for it. Thank you again, John. We should just get John up here and have him do the whole thing. I appreciate you. No, I mean, if you do have space and land, ground mount is always something we recommend for folks. Because again, you can face that perfectly facing south, 180 degrees, 30-degree tilt. It's perfect for Michigan. And that's where you can get the best bang for your buck. Again, if you have the space. Some areas are restricted if you're within city limits and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so the second question is regarding the roof, standard shingle roof. If the roof is already like 10 years old and I put a solar thing on, the solar's gonna last longer than the roof shingles.
Right.
So you have to take the solar panels off at some point in the future to like redo the roof shingles.
Yeah, so the question was, if you have an old roof, what happens when you need to put a new roof on if you have solar? And that's an important question. I'm glad you brought it up. It's something we do for anybody who has solar on their site and wants to get a new roof or needs one over the course of time. So we can do that for you. We factor that in, and it's usually about $200 to $250 per panel for us to remove and replace it once a new roof is put up. That's usually general costs, depending on what is involved with the roof. That becomes part of the next project, depending on if the application of it becomes going from shingle to metal or what have you. But we can help you with that. Usually if your roof is within that like couple years of needing to be replaced, usually we advise you to do that before the solar, because of course it's an added expense for us to have to go back and forth and do that again. But if you got 3 to 5 years left, maybe anything more than that, of course, having solar in that interim is going to save you much more than whatever the labor cost would be for us to come out and redo that. So it's definitely advantageous, because you're already going to have a grid connected system, and there's just a small window of time where that would not be generating power for them.